What's up guys, welcome to the channel. We've got a 2020 Chevrolet Camaro SS in Summit White with black stinger stripe in the middle, striped by two red spider stripes, ground effects package, and an adrenaline red interior with a carbon fiber appearance shift knob, and of course a ZL1 mono spec rear wing for ultimate downforce. Under the hood we've got the same old LT1 motor, but this one has a few GM Performance parts, including the GM Performance air intake filter, which adds a little more horsepower from the factory. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Now in the car, and a few things actually. So, the interior, like I mentioned earlier, is the adrenaline red option. You know, you've got red inner portion of the seat, and then of course leather outside here. This feels really nice. Touch points in this car are really nice. The door panels, the knee pads, the center console here, also very nice and leathery. The shift knob is covered in leather, just like the 2SS and 1SS. However, the top cap is actually a carbon fiber appearance option. This doesn't come with the adrenaline red package. However, this is definitely a nice upgrade, and I really do enjoy it. Door trim, leather, feels nice. Yeah, it's good. The roof is lined with cloth, but you know that's fine because there's a sports car after all. Steering wheel is wrapped in nice leather, padded leather. It's got ventilation holes here, or actually I don't think those are ventilation holes, or maybe they are. I'm not sure. But you've got your heated steering wheel option button here, and your collision awareness button. I'll demo that. I'll demo these both later. In terms of the infotainment system is a lot sharper in terms of display, and it's a lot zippier. This infotainment system actually made its debut in the 2019 Camaro and 2019 Corvettes, I believe, too. But yeah, as you can see, it's turns on really quickly. It's nice and buttery smooth, the animations. The graphics look really good, really sharp, as well as the time it takes to open things up. Opening things up in my car, for example, which is a 2018 6th-gen Camaro SS, sometimes apps would take a long time to open up, and not here. You know? Plus, everything is better, much better organized in terms of settings. You can get to your vehicle settings here. Pushing the vehicle tab, you don't have to scroll down or look at, you know, controls in the previous infotainment system. Everything just looks nice. This car in particular does come with 4G LTE. You can get that on any SS model, whether it's 2SS, 1SS, and with 4G LTE, you can do a few things. You can create your car, put your car into a Wi-Fi hotspot. You can actually download apps, although I haven't yet found the need to use any apps. But yeah, you can download Spotify. You can actually use the 4G LTE to stream music, obviously from Spotify or wherever. Talk about the mirror here. So this mirror is actually twofold. It is a regular conventional mirror, and then you have a video camera that gives you a rear view feed. So in order to showcase that, I'm going to turn the car on. There we go. And so here we go. The seat is, sorry. So there we go. The car is now on, and I will switch to rear view camera mode. This is also very, very sharp. It still feels a little unnatural to look at it, only because it's just weird looking at a rear view mirror that has a video feed. There is some latency, but even with and that's my point. The latency causes a bit of uneasiness with me, but that's just me. If you're stopped at a stoplight and you have obviously a car behind you, you can actually look at this and see both, all parties in the vehicle behind you in full vivid detail. You can even make out conversations. That's how sharp this camera is. It's actually a really nice addition. First made its appearance on the 2019 Camaro SS, but as you know, they put it in the rear spoiler, and that's kind of a problem for people who like to mop their cars like me. The solution was to put the rear camera on top of the roof, which quite frankly is something they should have done anyway, but you know, live and you learn. In order to adjust or even turn off your collision awareness, the way you do that is by pushing this button here, which will then bring up that screen there. And as you can see, that's the highest setting, but we can turn that down to medium, and then also to the most, the closest proximity possible. Or you can just turn it off. However, I don't recommend that because collision awareness, as annoying as it can be, it is actually helpful. So we're going to turn this back here. As you probably noticed when I turned the car on, the ventilated seats actually come on automatically. And that's a setting that you can get to, actually, vehicle settings here, climate air quality, auto fan speed, auto cooled and auto heated seats. Now I'm guessing that it's whether it turns on auto cooled or heated seats based on the temperature on the outside using the car's thermometer or whatever they use to measure ambient temperature. But yeah, it's a super nice addition, and the funny thing is on the 2020s and 2019, or 2020s at least, the ventilated seats actually work this time. When they first introduced the 6th gen Camaro, the cool seats did not work at all, at least from my opinion. But this year, it works very well. I don't know if they made the perforations bigger or they made the fan motor, the fan bigger, in the actual seats. Not sure, but definitely works, and I'm very, very happy about that, especially living in sunny California, because it's, as you can see, it's very sunny right now, and the temperature is what's the temperature right now? 75 degrees? I mean, it could be hotter, but I'm not wishing for that, obviously. But yeah, definitely comes in clutch. Okay, so let's talk about throttle mapping for a moment. The 2020 Camaro 2SS, and let's just say Camaro SS period. The throttle mapping is definitely different, and I'm assuming this is the case because of the 10-speed transmission that is now in the 2020s, as opposed to the 8090 8-speed shiftable automatics that were in the 2018 and down. As you know, with each mode that the car has, driving mode has, the tour mode, sport mode, and track mode, each mode changes how much tipping or how little tipping you need to get up to speed. For example, I have it in sport mode right now, but I'm going to put it in tour mode. Well, you can't really tell, but as I'm giving the car throttle input, it's the effort to get it up to where I need to until this acceleration is a little bit higher. The throttle is less aggressive. The suspension is relaxed a little bit, if you have Magna Ride, that is. And generally, it's just an easier driving experience. Now, in sport, the throttle input is a little more aggressive. Tip-in is a little heavier, but you start to get a lot more performance. Now, track is the same way, but it's taking sport to another level. Throttle tip-in is even heavier, and the suspension is much tighter if you have Magna Ride again. My goodness gracious. It also does that a lot too, especially in track mode. I want to also talk about the exhaust notes. With the 6th gen Camaro line, you can actually change the exhaust note and the driving modes independently of one another. You can also do the same thing with the steering feel as well. I generally like to keep the steering in sport because that's how I drive it in my car, independent of whatever the actual driving mode is. It's actually spoiled me quite a bit because now I can't really drive with anything other than sport mode. And I mean that just in general, not just with exhaust note and with the steering feel, but and suspension, just literally just in general. What's interesting though is that this car doesn't have Magna Ride. However, what I'm noticing is that throughout each of the modes, the suspension does seem to do something. If I had to take a guess, though, I'd imagine that between the sport suspension that's in this car and actual MagneRide, there wouldn't be much of a difference in terms of ride feel and just comfort. I'm here in Pothole City, aka, LA County, and I've run over many potholes, run over other imperfections in the road, and even in sport mode, like, it doesn't feel all that bad, honestly. Yeah, see, as you can see, from the time that I click the paddles to the time it decides to actually shift the transmission is very quick. Is it as quick as, a PDK? Obviously not, but it is very quick. And I would even argue it's actually even quicker than the 8090 automatic transmission. Now, you can also shift with the shift knob. However, I don't like doing it because there is some noticeable lag between the computer and the transmission. However, it's a lot quicker. Compared to the shift paddles, I would just use the shift paddles and not even fool with the shift knob at all, actually. Same thing goes for the 8090 in the pre-facelift 2SSs and 1SSs. Going back to acceleration for a little bit, the acceleration here is affected greatly, of course, by the tuning, but it's also affected by the air intake filter. What do I mean by that? Well, basically speaking, the stock airbox on the Camaro SS contributes to what's known as input lag. When you try to apply a more aggressive throttle input, you get met with about a half-second delay in terms of the car taking off. With the GM Performance air filter that's in this car, which is a separate optional item you can get, that all but eliminates that throttle input lag. So in terms of handling, the car comes with stiffer sway bars, so you've got a little bit more body control. I have a Camaro SS myself, and I'm able to push at least 1 G of force. However, with the sport tune suspension and the sway bars you have in this car, you're able to go a little bit more. I'm not going to demo that, but just know that if you get if you upgrade the suspension and the sway bars in the 2SS, you're essentially getting the closest that you're going to get to a 108, just short of not having an ELSD in the back, in the rear axle. There's a feature in pretty much all the automatic 2SS and 1SS Camaros called Performance Shift. It's kind of hidden, and you kind of really only discover it by accident if you're not, reading the manual. But basically the way you get to it is by turning traction control off and then pushing the button again. You'll then get into what's called ESC competitive mode. Basically, after you do that, what you want to do is you want to floor the throttle for just a second, and then it'll say Performance Shift active. It's basically like track mode, but it stays in gear at the absolute last possible second that you can leave it in while under wide open throttle. Shifts very hard on the downshifts. I'm adding medium throttle, and now I'm braking, and it's shifting down for me all by itself, and the shifts are pretty aggressive. I'm gonna brake just a little bit to give you guys another example of how the performance shift mode shifts down, and then you get all the gurgles and pops, obviously. But yeah, see, shifts very hard. Wow, yeah, dude. No lag for this guy. It's addicting. Not necessarily hammering on it, but just being aggressive with the throttle. It's so satisfying when you don't have to wait for the car to think about what it's going to do, One thing I don't like about performance shift mode is that while it's not hard to get into, it's very easy for it to turn itself off. And what I mean by that is, if you're braking and then all of a sudden you just resume normal throttle, or just normal braking period, it'll then just turn off. You don't have to go through the steps of reactivating it again the same way. You know, all you have to do is just push the throttle down, flip it, and then you're back in the mode. And man, it is wonderful. It's nice. On the 10-speed auto, it's pretty nice. So let's talk about braking for a moment. Traditionally, 1SS and 2SS Camaros come with the 4-piston Brembo brakes, which are plenty sufficient for everyday driving. I mean, even for like road course, well, not road course use, but even just for like light track use. This particular Camaro that I'm driving comes with the 6-piston Brembo brakes, which is a performance upgrade that you can get from GM, from the factory, or you can buy them a la carte. The braking with the 6-piston Brembos is actually not as bad as other 6-piston brake systems that I've had before. For instance, emergency stopping, obviously, like that is, you know, top notch, but just in general, tipping in on the brakes is a lot easier on these 6-piston Brembos than, say, a Hellcat. With Hellcats, and with just generally with 6-piston brakes that I've had before, they're very sensitive. These aren't really sensitive in that way, but it's just enough for you to have confidence in stopping when you need to stop and just driving normally. Well guys, that wraps up the review of the 2020 Chevrolet Camaro 2SS in Summit White. Had a blast in this car. I mean, again, even though it's technically the same as the 2018, 2019, 2016 core-wise, it still blows me away just how amazingly nimble and agile these cars really are. That being said, the fact that we now have plenty of options, performance options that aren't just tied to a particular trim, makes it all the more worthwhile to get a 2SS. If you just want pure American raw muscle with a hint of luxury, this is it. Now, again, you don't have to get exactly this trim with exactly this configuration, because it is a pretty penny at $63,000, well, just being north of $62,000. If you're looking for just ultimate fun on a budget, you can't go wrong with the 2SS, man.